Millionaire's secret social media, unmasking the real person. You think you know the lives of millionaires, but what about their online presence? This video reveals the hidden side of millionaires on social media, exposing the real people behind the luxury brands and extravagant lifestyles. If you crave to unveil the secrets and discover the untold story, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any thrilling developments, leave a comment about what you're most curious about, and share this video to help spread the truth. Alastair Finch, the digital king of illusion. The world knew Alastair Finch, CEO of Nexus Innovations, as a titan of tech, a paragon of perfection. His Instagram feed was a meticulously curated tapestry of opulence. Sunrise yoga sessions on the helipad of his Skyline Oasis estate in Los Angeles, overlooking the sprawling city, gourmet breakfasts served on the deck of his Azure yachts, drifting lazily across the crystal-clear Caribbean, private jet flights soaring over the majestic Rocky Mountains, a delicate espresso cup perched on a polished mahogany table. Every snapshot, every video clip, was a masterpiece of aspiration, meticulously framed to capture the elusive essence of a flawless, effortlessly glamorous existence. He was the embodiment of the American dream, scaled up to a dizzying, unattainable height. He was not just successful, he was the success, presented without a single wrinkle, without a hint of struggle. Alastair understood the game. In the digital age, perception was paramount. But for Alastair, his online persona was more than just good PR, it was a strategic fortress. He meticulously crafted his image to project unwavering strength and unparalleled success, believing it was the only way to safeguard Nexus Innovations from the cutthroat competition and to deter rivals from attempting hostile takeovers. He also knew that this pristine facade attracted top-tier talent and kept investors confident, creating a halo effect around his burgeoning empire. Unconsciously, it was also a coping mechanism, a way to control the narrative of his life after a past filled with unpredictability and betrayal. If the world saw perfection, they couldn't find the cracks. He dedicated an hour every morning, sometimes more, poring over engagement metrics, comment sentiment, and follower growth, treating his social media presence with the same rigor he applied to quarterly financial reports. This isn't just about likes, Rory, he'd often tell his COO, pointing to complex data visualizations. It's about leverage. It's about influence. It's about protecting what we've built. He had built Nexus Innovations from nothing, carving out an empire in AI and sustainable technology, but the public craved more than just innovation. They craved a narrative, a fantasy. And Alastair, with the sharp mind of an engineer and the calculating precision of a seasoned strategist, gave it to them. He'd pose for photos, a book in hand, on his balcony, the angles subtly highlighting the glint of his limited edition Titan Motors watch. He'd post a story about a simple dinner, artfully obscuring the private chef preparing it in his state-of-the-art Skyline Oasis kitchen, while a bottle of rare vintage wine sat conspicuously uncorked nearby. He was the master of the humble brag, a subtle nod to his unparalleled wealth, designed to incite envy and aspiration in equal measure. The world adored him. His follower count surged. Influencer Zara Vixen even reposted one of his yacht photos with the caption, "Living the Dream." Goals. Millionaire life. Alastair would scroll through the admiring comments, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk touching his lips. It was a shield, a perfectly crafted facade, guarding a past so gritty, so painful, that revealing it would shatter the polished image he had so painstakingly constructed. While the majority of comments were fawning, praising his lifestyle and seeking inspiration, a minority, mostly anonymous accounts, occasionally left cynical remarks. Too perfect. No one lives like this, one read. Where's the struggle, Mr. Finch? Or is that just edited out, another quipped. Alastair would dismiss these, but a tiny prickle of unease would sometimes linger. However, lurking beneath this pristine surface, a storm was brewing. The meticulously arranged pixels on his feed occasionally contained fleeting, almost unnoticeable anomalies. A shadowy figure briefly flickering in the background of a crowded party photo. A pair of intense, calculating eyes glimpsed for a split second in the reflection of a mirrored wall. These weren't just random glitches, they were echoes of a surveillance operation, the digital footprints of Julian Blackwood's earliest, subtle probes into Alastair's carefully guarded life. Blackwood had cultivated a dark network of data brokers and digital forensics experts long before Nexus became a blip on his radar. He believed in understanding his targets inside and out, especially their vulnerabilities. Alastair's security team, sharp as they were, dismissed them as minor, common digital artifacts, never suspecting the sinister intent behind them. They were overwhelmed by the sheer volume of daily digital noise, making these subtle intrusions easy to overlook. Alastair himself, deep in the throes of managing a rapidly expanding empire and constantly refining Nexus's next-gen AI, felt a persistent, low-grade exhaustion, a dull ache behind his eyes that no amount of meditation or curated peace could truly alleviate. The constant performance, the relentless pursuit of perfection, was slowly but surely draining him. His personal life, a sparse landscape of work and more work, offered little respite. Dates with high-profile women felt more like business negotiations than genuine connections. He rarely saw his few remaining friends outside of Rory. There were nights, alone in his sprawling, empty mansion, when the silence was deafening, amplifying the subtle hum of his anxieties, the fear of failure, the lingering ghost of betrayal. He would stare at his reflection, the man in the mirror a stranger to the public, and sometimes, even to himself, wondering if the price of success was the complete erasure of his true self. He started experiencing fleeting moments of vertigo, a disorienting sense that the ground beneath him wasn't as solid as it seemed. One evening, at a glittering charity gala at the Met, a young woman, dressed impeccably, approached him, her eyes wide with admiration. "Mr. Finch, your life. It's just so inspiring. I follow you on Instagram. It's like a dream. How do you do it all?" Alastair offered a practiced, charming smile, but inside, a hollowness echoed. "It's all about focus and passion," he recited smoothly, the familiar lines feeling like a lie. He quickly excused himself, the brief interaction leaving him surprisingly unsettled. The ghosts of Shadowbrook Alley. Alastair Finch was not born into opulence. His story began in Shadowbrook Alley, a desolate, crime-ridden district on the outskirts of Chicago. He grew up amidst the harsh realities of poverty, the constant siren wails, and the ever-present stench of neglect. The crumbling brick buildings, the graffiti-scarred alleys, the ever-present tension in the air, these were the landscapes of his early life. He saw firsthand the brutal consequences of desperation and the crushing weight of systemic inequality. Gang violence was a daily threat, the sounds of distant gunshots a lullaby. He learned to be invisible, to keep his head down, and to never show weakness. His mother, Eleanor Finch, was a woman forged in hardship. She toiled relentlessly in an old, decrepit chemical factory, her hands stained with grease, her body aching, all to put food on their meager table and ensure Alastair had a chance at something more. She was his bedrock, his North Star, instilling in him a fierce intellect and an unyielding will to survive. She taught him the value of knowledge, buying him battered second-hand books and encouraging him to dream beyond the confines of their grim reality. "Knowledge is the only wealth no one can steal from you, Alastair," she'd often whisper, her voice raspy from the factory dust. "It's your ticket out of here." During his college years, Alastair poured every saved penny, every borrowed cent, into what he believed was a revolutionary tech startup. The promise was immense, the potential intoxicating. The investor, a smooth-talking charlatan named Marcus Thorne, had spun a web of grand visions, a decentralized AI network that would revolutionize urban planning. Thorne, a former associate of Julian Blackwood, knew exactly how to prey on ambitious, desperate young minds. He showcased fake prototypes, presented forged testimonials, and even arranged staged meetings with fabricated, industry giants, complete with lavish dinners and promises of unparalleled returns. Alastair, brilliant but naive in the shark-infested waters of finance, saw only the promise of a better life for him and Eleanor. He didn't just lose his meager savings. He lost the emergency fund Eleanor had painstakingly built for her worsening lung condition, a condition exacerbated by years in the polluted factory. The diagnosis had been grim, the treatments expensive, and that fund represented their last glimmer of hope for her health. Thorne vanished, leaving behind only an empty shell corporation and a trail of shattered dreams. Alastair found himself drowning in debt, hounded by creditors, his academic scholarship threatened by his financial ruin. The shame and guilt were almost unbearable. He was forced to drop out of his final semester, postponing his graduation indefinitely. The betrayal plunged him into despair. He stood on the precipice of giving up, the dream he had meticulously nurtured dissolving into bitter ashes. "It's all gone, Rory," a younger, raw Alastair had rasped, his voice thick with defeat, eyes hollow from sleepless nights. He was huddled in a dimly lit, cramped apartment, the last vestiges of his hope crumbling around him. "Everything. They stripped us bare. How can I ever trust anyone again?" Rory McCabe, his childhood friend and unwavering confidant, placed a hand on his shoulder, his gaze resolute. "This isn't the end, Alastair. This is just the beginning of our fight. We learn, we build, and we never let anyone break us again." Rory's words, quiet yet firm, were the lifeline Alastair desperately clung to. Not long after, tragedy struck again. Eleanor, his pillar of strength, perished in a mysterious explosion at the chemical plant. The official report cited it as an industrial accident, but a chilling doubt gnawed at Alastair's soul. He began a secret, years-long investigation, quietly funneling resources into uncovering the truth behind the accident. He hired private investigators discreetly, leveraging nascent contacts he was building in the tech world. He found anomalies. A sudden, unscheduled maintenance shutdown just before the explosion, key personnel inexplicably transferred, a crucial security camera feed corrupted. He uncovered a pattern of environmental violations at the plant, habitually ignored by authorities, and whispers of a powerful corporation buying off local officials to cut corners on safety. He suspected it was not just an accident, but a deliberate act, perhaps to cover up dangerous practices, or worse, a targeted hit. He found irrefutable evidence suggesting the factory had recently been acquired by a shell holding company with direct financial ties to a ruthless emerging conglomerate, a company that would later become Obsidian Corporation. The very company that would later become his fiercest rival had blood on its hands, his mother's blood. But he lacked the irrefutable evidence, the smoking gun, to prove it in a court of law. The agonizing grief of losing his mother, coupled with the searing helplessness he felt, ignited an unquenchable thirst for power and wealth. He vowed to build an empire, to amass enough influence to protect those he cared about, to ensure no one else would suffer the injustices his mother had endured. He wanted to dismantle the very systems that had crushed his family, to expose the darkness hidden beneath corporate veneers, even if it meant becoming a master of those veneers himself. Rory was the only one who witnessed these profound heartbreaks, the sole confidant who knew the true depth of Alastair's scars. Together, they clawed their way out of the depths, enduring countless rejections from venture capitalists, working out of a tiny, cockroach-infested garage in Silicon Valley, surviving on ramen noodles and boundless ambition. They faced ridicule from established tech giants who dismissed their AI models as impractical fantasies, calling them garage dreamers. There were moments of crushing doubt, near bankruptcies, and failed prototypes, each a brutal test of their resolve. One particularly harrowing week, their server nearly crashed, threatening to erase years of work, only for Rory to pull an all-nighter, fueled by cheap coffee and sheer will, saving it by a hair's breadth. Rory even sold his grandmother's antique watch, a family heirloom, to keep them afloat during one critical funding gap, an act of loyalty Alastair never forgot. They learned to trust no one, to depend only on each other, a bond forged in the crucible of shared adversity, a silent pact against a world that seemed determined to break them. These searing experiences forged Alastair into the man he was today, outwardly cold, fiercely private, and perpetually driven to construct an impeccable facade, not just to project success, but to shield his vulnerable core and safeguard his hard-won empire from the ravenous shadows of his past. Have you ever wondered, behind the dazzling images on social media, what truly shaped a person, a life story full of ups and downs? If this emotional journey has touched your heart, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and spread this video to your friends. The Obsidian Threat. A crisis unfolds while Alastair meticulously crafted his digital kingdom. A far more dangerous game was unfolding in the real world. Julian Blackwood, the ruthless CEO of Obsidian Corporation, was not merely a business rival, he was a predator, driven by an insatiable hunger for dominance and a deep-seated resentment for Alastair's meteoric rise. Blackwood, a man with a reputation for merciless takeovers and unethical practices, saw Nexus Innovations not as competition, but as prey. Julian Blackwood's own past was shrouded in mystery, but whispers abounded of a childhood marked by extreme privilege yet devoid of affection, fostering a cold ambition that recognized no boundaries. Born into a vast, old-money dynasty, Julian was groomed for power from birth, but never for empathy. He saw people as tools, emotions as weaknesses. He had built Obsidian Corporation through aggressive acquisitions, often leaving a trail of bankrupt competitors and devastated communities in his wake. His business model was simple: acquire, strip assets, and dominate. He saw Alastair's focus on sustainable tech and ethical AI as naive idealism, a weakness he intended to exploit. Julian despised anything that remotely resembled genuine human connection or vulnerability, seeing them as liabilities in the cutthroat world of corporate power. He lived in a gilded cage of his own making, surrounded by sycophants and devoid of true connection, feeding his insatiable need for control. Alastair's very existence, his rise from nothing, and his unexpected moral compass, was an affront to everything Julian believed in. He wanted not just to win, but to utterly annihilate Alastair and everything he represented. He launched a clandestine smear campaign, subtle at first, planting whispers of intellectual property infringement against Nexus Innovations in obscure tech blogs and anonymous forums. Simultaneously, Blackwood's network of shadowy operatives began to covertly incite discontent among Nexus's smaller partners and former clients, manipulating their grievances, fanning the flames of distrust. The initial effect was almost imperceptible, a slight tremor in the market. Then, with a sudden, brutal force, it hit. Julian Blackwood's strategy was multi-pronged, a meticulously planned assault designed to dismantle Nexus from the inside out and obliterate Alastair's reputation. He didn't just spread rumors, he orchestrated a series of fake news articles across seemingly legitimate financial and tech publications. These articles, crafted with chilling precision, detailed fabricated complaints about Nexus Innovations' AI systems, alleging privacy breaches and unethical data harvesting, even going as far as to create deepfake videos of disgruntled customers. He manipulated stock analysts through veiled threats and lucrative incentives to sell ratings on Nexus stock, causing a ripple effect of panic among investors, pushing the stock down by 15% in a single week. Furthermore, he deployed a sophisticated phishing scheme targeting Nexus's mid-level executives, attempting to steal sensitive internal communications that could be twisted and leaked to the press, particularly focusing on emails regarding Nexus's early, experimental AI algorithms, which could be misconstrued as invasive. Julian also leveraged his vast network of political connections to initiate a series of unexpected regulatory audits against Nexus Innovations, tying up their legal and compliance departments with endless paperwork and investigations, draining their resources and diverting critical personnel from their core development. He even approached Nexus's key component suppliers, subtly coercing them to delay shipments or raise prices, subtly strangling Nexus's production pipeline. News articles, seemingly from credible sources, began to surface, detailing fabricated complaints, showcasing manipulated emails, and quoting disgruntled ex-employees who were, in fact, Blackwood's paid informants. The stock price of Nexus Innovations, once a gleaming beacon of stability, began to plummet. Alastair watched the numbers bleed on his multi-screen setup in the war room at Nexus Innovations headquarters in Manhattan. His usual calm demeanor was replaced by a rigid tension that spoke of contained fury. He hadn't slept in what felt like days. Caffeine was his only companion, a bitter ritual to keep his mind sharp in the face of the onslaught. The air in the office was thick with the scent of stale coffee and unspoken fear. Rory, his face etched with concern, hovered nearby. "Alastair, you haven't slept in 72 hours, Rory pleaded, his voice laced with genuine worry. "You're going to break. Let me handle this press conference. You need to rest." Alastair's gaze, bloodshot but fiercely resolute, met Rory's. His voice, though hoarse from lack of sleep, was unyielding. "No. I built this. I'll face it. They need to see a leader, not a victim. The image must hold, no matter what." The irony was not lost on him. The very image he had cultivated to exude strength was now his most potent weapon, yet also his heaviest burden. He felt a cold, metallic taste in his mouth, a precursor to the panic attacks that had started to plague him during the darkest hours of this crisis. His hands trembled almost imperceptibly as he gripped the edge of the desk. He had started to lose weight, his once sharp jawline becoming gaunt. Sleep offered no escape, haunted by nightmares of Eleanor in the factory, or Marcus Thorne's mocking smile, often waking him up in a cold sweat. There was a moment, just a fleeting second, when he considered throwing it all away, retreating to his isolated estate, letting the empire crumble. But then, Eleanor's face, etched with determination, flashed in his mind, her words about integrity echoing. He remembered Rory's unwavering support through all their previous failures, his quiet sacrifices. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about Eleanor's legacy, about the thousands of Nexus employees who relied on him for their livelihoods, about the future of ethical AI he was fighting for, a future Julian Blackwood sought to corrupt. He knew Julian Blackwood was relentless, almost pathologically driven to destroy him, a pure force of malice. Alastair's only viable strategy was to absorb the blows, maintain the facade of unshakable confidence, and wait for an opening, a weakness in Blackwood's armor that he could exploit. On national television, Julian Blackwood, with a predatory glint in his eyes and a smirk playing on his lips, delivered a scathing commentary. "Mr. Finch's dedication is admirable. But a crumbling empire needs more than a pretty facade. It needs integrity. Something Nexus Innovations clearly lacks." His words, venomous and calculated, twisted the knife deeper. Blackwood's media team carefully crafted soundbites that painted Alastair as an out-of-touch elite, someone who only cared about profit, despite Nexus Innovations' stated mission of sustainability. They highlighted the stock drop, implying financial mismanagement and a failing business model, despite Nexus's strong underlying innovation. A prominent financial pundit, secretly on Blackwood's payroll, declared on live TV, "Nexus Innovations is a house of cards built on hype, led by a man more concerned with his yacht than his shareholders." These attacks were relentless, chipping away at Nexus's foundation. The pressure was suffocating. Alastair felt the walls closing in, threatening to crush not just his company, but his very spirit. He dismissed a top-tier security report that indicated unusual network activity, believing it to be a distraction, a minor irritant compared to the financial freefall. This oversight, born of extreme exhaustion and tunnel vision, would prove almost catastrophic later. He was barely functioning on autopilot, his focus narrowed solely on the financial crisis. Even Rory, usually meticulous, was stretched thin, overseeing the legal team battling the regulatory audits and fighting the disinformation campaign. The sense of isolation grew, as even some long-standing business partners, wary of Blackwood's power, began to distance themselves from Nexus, fearful of being caught in the crossfire. Alastair's reputation, built on years of hard work, was eroding by the day, atom by atom. He felt like a boxer taking endless punches, unable to hit back without revealing his own vulnerability. The burden of maintaining the perfect image, while his world crumbled, was immense. Each morning, putting on the mask felt heavier than the last. Yet, the next morning, he emerged from his Skyline Oasis estate, seemingly refreshed, a picture of vibrant health. He posted a photo of himself on his social media, mid-jog, the Los Angeles skyline a breathtaking backdrop, accompanied by a caption about embracing the challenge. It was the "I woke up like this" illusion perfected, a defiant lie against the crushing reality he faced. This public display, amidst his private torment, set the stage for an unwitting exposure, for actions driven by sheer instinct that would, eventually, tear down the carefully constructed diamond facade. Behind these meticulously designed perfect exteriors on social media, do you recognize the invisible pressures and fierce trade-offs many face in real life? Let's explore this world deeper. Don't forget to like, subscribe so you don't miss our next intriguing analyses, and comment to let us know your perspective. Unveiling the real person, a cataclysmic unmasking amidst the relentless assault from Obsidian Corp. And Julian Blackwood, a different kind of crisis, utterly unpredictable, erupted, pushing Alastair to the very edge and inadvertently tearing away his meticulously constructed facade. The news bulletins, already dominated by the Nexus scandal, flashed images of unimaginable devastation. A historic flood, triggered by unprecedented rainfall, ravaged Harmony Creek, a quaint, isolated town nestled deep in the Appalachia Mountains. This was no ordinary town to Alastair. It was a place etched in the tender, faded memories of his childhood, where he'd spent summers with Eleanor, fishing in pristine streams and learning to appreciate the quiet resilience of nature. He remembered the smell of pine trees after a summer rain, the warmth of Eleanor's hand in his, pointing out constellations in the clear night sky. The news of the devastation struck him with a visceral force, a pang that transcended the cold logic of business. The images flashed across his news feed, homes swept away, families displaced, a community drowning. He saw photos of the old general store, where Eleanor used to buy him candy, now submerged under murky water. The thought of Mr. Henderson, the kindly old proprietor, losing everything, gnawed at him. It was a direct, raw hit to his emotional core, pulling him back to his deepest roots, away from the sterile boardrooms and the digital battlefield. This was a call to action his calculated mind hadn't prepared for, a purely human instinct overriding the CEO's playbook. For hours, Alastair paced his office, the grim financial reports on one screen, the harrowing images of Harmony Creek on another. The dissonance was deafening. He knew he was needed in Manhattan, orchestrating Nexus's defense, but his soul cried out for Harmony Creek. Rory tried to argue against it, stressing the critical importance of his presence in New York. Alastair, we're fighting for the very survival of Nexus. You can't just leave. It'll look like you're abandoning ship. Blackwood will have a field day. He'll twist this into another attack on your credibility. But Alastair's resolve was unshakable. He knew that if he didn't answer this call, something vital within him would wither and die. It was a desperate act of self-preservation, not for his empire, but for his soul, a desperate attempt to reclaim a piece of himself that the corporate world had almost swallowed. He had to be where he felt he could truly make a difference, even if it meant risking everything he had built. Without a moment's hesitation, and with an almost defiant disregard for his public image, Alastair made a decision. He would go. Not as Alastair Finch, the Millionaire CEO, but as someone driven by an ancient, primal need to help. He secretly organized a massive relief effort, funneling private funds and Nexus resources through a network of trusted contacts, meticulously avoiding any media attention. No press releases, no camera crews, no PR stunts. He needed to be there. Julian Blackwood, hearing whispers of Alastair's unexpected departure, scoffed. He quickly dispatched his own charity team to Harmony Creek, a slick, media-savvy crew designed purely for photo opportunities, complete with branded tents and performative handshakes, an obvious attempt to overshadow Alastair and paint him as a hypocrite. Blackwood even subtly leaked the information that Alastair Finch was abandoning his company for a PR stunt to a few key influencers and tabloid reporters. His intention was to create a media circus, ensuring Alastair's genuine efforts were drowned out by accusations of phoniness. The Blackwood team arrived in Harmony Creek with a fleet of branded SUVs, cameras flashing, and a pre-written press release, contrasting sharply with Alastair's quiet, boots-on-the-ground approach. They set up their branded aid station directly next to where Alastair and a small group of volunteers were quietly distributing supplies, flashing blinding spotlights and shouting commands to their film crew. He arrived in Harmony Creek not in a tailored suit, but in a worn work jacket and sturdy boots. The air hung heavy with the smell of damp earth and despair. He worked tirelessly, side by side with emergency responders and local volunteers, his hands soon caked with mud, his muscles aching from lifting debris and distributing aid. He helped elderly residents salvage what little they could, offered words of comfort to distraught families, and even joined in the grueling task of reinforcing temporary shelters. He often worked late into the night, fueled by instant coffee and sheer determination, long after Blackwood's team packed up after a few hours, heading to a nearby luxury hotel, their mission accomplished for the cameras. One afternoon, as Alastair knelt, offering a bottle of water to an old man sitting amidst the rubble of what was once his home, the man's eyes, clouded with grief and exhaustion, suddenly sharpened. It was Mr. Silas, a local farmer whose weathered face held the stories of generations. He squinted at Alastair, a flicker of recognition in his gaze. You're that tech mogul, aren't you?" Mr. Silas rasped, his voice rough with emotion, disbelief coloring his words. "What are you doing here, son? Thought you were too busy with your fancy cities. We just saw some other fancy folks here this morning, all cameras and smiles, then they left. Said they were from Obsidian Corporation. You look different from them." Alastair, still holding the water bottle, offered a tired but genuine smile. His hands, usually reserved for navigating touchscreens and signing multi-million-dollar deals, were now calloused and dirty. "Just trying to help, Mr. Silas," he replied softly, his voice devoid of any pretense or corporate polish. "This place, it means something to me. My mother brought me here when I was a boy. It reminds me of the good in the world." It was a moment of raw, unscripted humanity, a crack in the diamond facade. Unbeknownst to Alastair, a young volunteer, moved by the millionaire's genuine humility, snapped a quick photo with her phone. This volunteer was Emily, a struggling journalism student from a local community college, volunteering for the first time. She had always been skeptical of public figures, especially millionaires, but Alastair's quiet dedication and genuine interaction with Mr. Silas struck her deeply. She felt an urgent, instinctive need to capture this authentic moment. She wasn't seeking fame or a scoop, she simply wanted to share a rare glimpse of true humanity. In her haste, she accidentally uploaded the photo to a public photo-sharing forum, intending to share it with friends and family, but forgetting to set the privacy settings. The image quickly circulated, a stark contrast to the staged photos being churned out by Blackwood's team, which were already drawing ridicule for their obvious phoniness. A popular Twitter account, Real or Fake News, juxtaposed Emily's photo next to a Blackwood-sponsored image, with the caption, "Which one feels more real? You decide." The comments section exploded with comparisons, praising Alastair's quiet efforts. The internet, however, had other plans. The image went viral, exploding across social media platforms like wildfire. Immediately, a storm of controversy erupted. PR stunt of the year, screamed one headline. Millionaire's dirty hands, authentic or calculated, pondered another. Many dismissed it as a cynical attempt to whitewash Alastair's image amidst the Obsidian Corporation scandal. Yet, a growing segment of the public, particularly the younger generations, found themselves intrigued. The stark contrast between the glamorous Instagram posts and this raw, unedited snapshot was undeniable. Questions began to ripple across the digital landscape: who was the real Alastair Finch? The photo even caught the attention of Quinn Hayes, a tenacious investigative journalist from The Sentinel, renowned for her ability to uncover hidden truths. She stared at the image on her screen, a frown creasing her brow. She noticed a subtle detail in the background of the Harmony Creek photo, a faded, almost illegible sign for Eleanor's Emporium, a small, forgotten store from decades ago. Her research quickly connected the name Eleanor to Alastair's deceased mother and Harmony Creek to her childhood visits. This was the first thread that led her deeper into Alastair's closely guarded past. Quinn also cross-referenced the timestamps of Blackwood's charity posts with local weather reports and discovered his team had arrived after the peak of the flood, performing superficial aid, unlike Alastair who had been there at the worst of it. This discrepancy fueled her determination. She reached out to Emily, the student who took the photo, who willingly shared her raw, unedited footage and her personal account of Alastair's quiet efforts, confirming the genuine nature of his presence. Quinn knew she had a story, a rare glimpse behind the curtain of a public figure. This photo, it doesn't fit, she mused aloud to a colleague. Alastair Finch doesn't do lamb. This isn't his brand. There's a story here, and I'm going to find it. Her journalistic instincts screamed that there was more than met the eye, a deeper narrative waiting to be unearthed beneath the layers of PR and public perception. Facing the mounting public speculation, Alastair could have denied, deflected, or spun a narrative. But something shifted within him. The overwhelming sense of raw connection he felt in Harmony Creek, the genuine gratitude from Mr. Silas, resonated more deeply than any carefully crafted media strategy ever could. Instead of issuing a formal press statement, he took to his personal social media. He publicly acknowledged the Phoenix Reborn project in Harmony Creek, but kept his tone humble and understated. More surprisingly, he posted a short, unpolished video, not of his work, not of his luxurious lifestyle, but of himself in the small, surprisingly modest garden at his Skyline Oasis estate. It was a corner of his sprawling property rarely seen, filled with quiet dignity. He was meticulously pruning a rose bush, his movements deliberate, almost meditative. In the video, Alastair spoke in a calm, reflective voice, a stark contrast to his usual terse, businesslike pronouncements. Sometimes, he began, his eyes deep with a vulnerability that startled his audience, the most valuable things are those we nurture in silence. Like these plants, like trust, like genuine connection. He spoke of the simple peace the garden brought him, and how he was learning to replant genuine values in his own life, a subtle nod to his arduous journey. The video, devoid of any special effects or grand statements, was remarkably simple, yet it touched the hearts of millions, revealing a profound, previously hidden aspect of Alastair Finch. It was the first authentic glimpse into the soul of the man behind the diamond facade. When you strip away the glittering masks, are you truly ready to reveal the most genuine aspects of yourself to forge meaningful connections, regardless of status or origin? If you believe in the power of authenticity, support us by liking, subscribing, and sharing this video to spread positive messages to everyone. The power of authenticity, a paradigm shift. The leaked photo and Alastair's raw, unexpected video created a seismic shift in public perception. The narrative began to turn, from skepticism to curiosity, then to genuine intrigue. People no longer saw just a millionaire, but a human being grappling with both immense wealth and unseen burdens. This shift emboldened Quinn Hayes. She sensed her moment had arrived to delve deeper, to peel back the layers of a carefully constructed life. Her relentless investigation led her back to Rory McCabe, Alastair's steadfast COO and the only living link to his tumultuous past. Initially, Rory was guarded. His loyalty to Alastair ran deep, forged in the fires of Shadowbrook Alley. He had sworn to protect Alastair's secrets, knowing the pain they carried. But Quinn, with her sharp intellect and an uncanny ability to connect on a human level, persisted. She didn't just demand facts, she sought understanding. She shared her vision of how Alastair's true story could inspire, how it could resonate with a generation yearning for authenticity over manufactured perfection. "Mr. McCabe," Quinn stated, her voice firm yet empathetic, during a tense meeting in Rory's Spartan office. "The public deserves to know the real story. Not the facade, but the grit, the struggle. That's where true inspiration lies." Hiding his past now only feeds the rumors Julian Blackwood is spreading. Rory's gaze drifted to a framed, faded photo on his desk, a young Alastair and himself, grinning fiercely in Shadowbrook Alley, mud on their shoes, dreams in their eyes. He thought of Eleanor, of her unwavering belief in her son. He thought of the immense pressure Alastair was under. It was time. He took a deep breath, the decision solidifying within him. "You're right, Ms. Hayes. It's time. But this isn't just a story, it's his life. Promise me you'll tell it with respect. Every painful detail." Quinn Hayes's subsequent article, "From Shadowbrook Alley to Skyline Oasis, Alastair Finch, More Than a Mogul," published in The Sentinel, became an instant phenomenon. It chronicled Alastair's harrowing childhood, his heartbreaking loss of Eleanor, the devastating fraud that nearly broke him, and his relentless, almost superhuman struggle to build Nexus Innovations from nothing. It painted a portrait of resilience, determination, and quiet philanthropy, contrasting sharply with the opulent image he had projected. The article went viral, sparking conversations across every platform, from kitchen tables to corporate boardrooms, fundamentally altering the public's perception of Alastair Finch across America. He was no longer just a millionaire, he was the Phoenix CEO, a symbol of triumph over adversity. The shift in public sentiment was not lost on Celeste Dubois, Nexus Innovations' brilliant young head of marketing. A true Gen Z native, Celeste had long advocated for a more transparent, authentic approach to corporate communication. She saw the viral success of Quinn's article and Alastair's garden video as undeniable proof. "Mr. Finch, the old playbook is dead," Celeste declared during a heated strategy meeting, her enthusiasm almost infectious. "People are tired of perfect. They crave real. Let's show them the grit behind the gloss, the humanity behind the innovation." Alastair, still wary from years of guarding his private world, initially hesitated. "Vulnerability isn't exactly a CEO's strong suit, Celeste. It goes against everything I've built. It's a weakness Julian Blackwood will exploit." Celeste's eyes sparkled. "Exactly. And that's precisely why it will resonate. It's unexpected. It's courageous. It's authentic. Julian Blackwood can't fake that." She presented a detailed strategic plan for Authenticity Echoes, a campaign focused on genuine stories, behind-the-scenes glimpses of Nexus's innovations, and Alastair's personal journey. Convinced by Celeste's passionate arguments and the overwhelming public response to his initial acts of authenticity, Alastair gave his reluctant approval. Julian Blackwood, meanwhile, watched in disbelief and simmering fury as the tide turned. His smear campaign against Nexus, once so effective, was now being openly mocked. He doubled down, launching a new wave of fabricated evidence, distorted facts, and hiring online trolls to flood social media with negative narratives, attempting to brand Alastair's authenticity as a manipulative trick. He even managed to get a few mainstream news outlets to question Alastair's true motives, using his immense financial leverage. Blackwood escalated his tactics further, orchestrating a subtle campaign of industrial espionage. He attempted to bribe key Nexus employees for confidential information about upcoming product launches and research breakthroughs. When that failed, he tried to plant moles within the company, disguised as new hires, specifically targeting Celeste's marketing team, hoping to disrupt the Authenticity Echoes campaign from within. He also launched a parallel smear against Quinn Hayes, funding anonymous blogs and social media accounts that accused her of biased reporting and a personal vendetta against Blackwood, trying to undermine her credibility. He went as far as tampering with Nexus's supply chain, causing critical delays in components for their flagship AI units, hoping to cripple their production and fulfillments. He bribed disgruntled former employees of Nexus to file frivolous lawsuits, creating a constant legal drain on the company. Blackwood's ruthlessness knew no bounds. He even subtly manipulated the media to suggest Alistair was neglecting his company by focusing on charity in Harmony Creek, turning a genuine act of kindness into a weapon against him. He dispatched a team of his own experts to Harmony Creek, not to help, but to discreetly spread rumors that Alistair's presence was disrupting aid efforts, and that his motives were purely self-serving, even fabricating stories of Alistair's team diverting supplies. However, the public, now armed with Quinn Hayes' in-depth story and swayed by Alistair's genuine vulnerability, was no longer easily fooled. Online communities organically formed to debunk Julian's claims. Fans, inspired by Alistair's newfound openness, meticulously fact-checked and refuted the false accusations, turning Julian's own propaganda against him. The Authenticity Echoes campaign, spearheaded by Celeste, amplified Alistair's real voice, drowning out Blackwood's manufactured noise. Even Zara Vixen, the influencer who once embodied the superficial lifestyle Alistair projected, felt a pang of conscience. After reading Quinn's article and watching Alistair's authentic videos, she posted a surprisingly candid story admitting her own struggles with maintaining a perfect online image, subtly aligning herself with the growing authenticity movement. Her public confession further chipped away at the myth of effortless perfection, sparking a wave of similar revelations from other influencers. Mainstream media, seeing the overwhelming public support for Alistair, began to shift their narrative, questioning Blackwood's tactics and motives. Legal teams at Nexus, empowered by Alistair's newfound public trust, fought back fiercely against Blackwood's frivolous lawsuits, turning the tables on him in court. The public's trust in Nexus innovation swelled, fueled by the stark contrast between Alistair's quiet, genuine efforts and Julian Blackwood's overt, manipulative theatrics in Harmony Creek. Social media users created memes contrasting the muddy, empathetic Alistair with the pristine, smirking Blackwood, quickly making him a symbol of corporate insincerity. In a stunning reversal, Nexus Innovation's stock, which had plummeted weeks earlier, not only recovered but surged to unprecedented heights. Investors, once wary, now saw a leader who was not only brilliant but also trustworthy and deeply human. Julian Blackwood, watching the ticker on his private screen, slammed his fist on the desk. "What do you mean it backfired?" he bellowed at his trembling assistant. "His stock is up. This authenticity nonsense is a trick. A goddamn trick. I paid you millions for this. This, Alistair Finch, is a cockroach." The hacker on the other end simply disconnected. Julian's face contorted in a mask of pure fury and bitter defeat. His grand finale had failed. His hubris had blinded him to the unexpected power of a genuine leader with a loyal, authentic community behind him. The evidence Nexus collected led to Blackwood's swift arrest and the dismantling of Obsidian Corp. A testament to the fact that even the most cunning schemes crumble before the unwavering strength of truth. Alistair's authenticity had not only built a formidable community but also forged an impenetrable fortress that protected him from the most insidious of conspiracies. The public learned of the cyber attack and Alistair's heroic defense, further solidifying his image as a leader of integrity and courage. His stock soared even higher, and Nexus Innovations emerged stronger, more resilient, and more trusted than ever before. Julian Blackwood's empire, built on sand, crumbled, revealing the rotten core beneath. His downfall served as a stark warning to those who prioritized power over integrity. Federal investigations into Obsidian Corp's long history of unethical practices intensified, promising a complete unraveling of Blackwood's dark empire. Are you ready to harness the power of authenticity to build your personal brand, cultivate trust, and overcome all prejudices in the volatile world of social media? Become a part of the community of those who dare to live authentically. Like, subscribe to the channel for inspiring content updates, and don't hesitate to comment and share your own story. Building a genuine online presence. A community forged in truth. Alastair Finch's journey from a carefully constructed illusion to a beacon of authenticity reshaped not only his public image but also the very fabric of Nexus Innovations' digital presence. Gone were the lavish party photos and the subtle boasts of extravagant wealth. His social media platforms transformed into vibrant hubs centered around the core values of Nexus Innovations. A relentless pursuit of innovation for a better future, a deep commitment to corporate social responsibility, and unwavering support for young, aspiring talents. He began posting short, compelling video diaries from the Nexus Innovations headquarters, showcasing cutting-edge AI projects aimed at solving real-world problems. He hosted live Q&A sessions with brilliant young engineers and data scientists, giving them a platform to share their passion. He documented Nexus's ongoing efforts in sustainable technology, from their solar-powered server farms to their initiatives funding eco-friendly startups. He even shared snippets from workshops he personally led for university students, inspiring the next generation of innovators. His content was no longer about showing what he had, but what he stood for. Beyond the corporate values, Alastair delved deeper, sharing real experiences and emotional truths that resonated profoundly with his growing audience. He revealed the bitter taste of past failures, the agony of difficult business decisions, and even the gnawing loneliness that often accompanied his position at the apex of the corporate world. He spoke candidly about his struggles with self-doubt, the immense pressure of leading a multi-billion-dollar company, and how he learned to confront his inner demons. In a particularly poignant live stream, his eyes, still carrying the weight of past battles, looked directly into the camera. The hardest decisions aren't about profit, Alastair confessed, his voice tinged with emotion. They're about people. Sometimes, leadership means making choices that break your heart, to save what truly matters. He recounted the agonizing period when he had to make the difficult decision to lay off a small percentage of his workforce to prevent the entire company from collapsing during the financial crisis instigated by Blackwood. He didn't sugarcoat the pain or the sleepless nights. The raw honesty struck a chord. Instead of criticism, his comments section flooded with messages of empathy, respect, and shared experiences from viewers who had faced similar tough choices in their own lives. This vulnerability, once his greatest fear, had become his greatest strength. Encouraged by this unprecedented connection, Alastair launched the 100 Days of Authenticity challenge on his social media. He encouraged his followers to share their own unpolished, imperfect, everyday moments, to celebrate their true selves without filters or pretense. The response was overwhelming. The hashtag authenticity echoes trended globally. People from all walks of life, inspired by Alastair's courage, shared stories of their struggles, their small victories, their true passions, creating a vibrant, supportive online community. It was a digital movement, organically grown, driven by a shared desire for genuine human connection. The challenge wasn't just about sharing, it was about genuine interaction. Alastair personally responded to hundreds of comments, offering encouragement and engaging in meaningful dialogue. He hosted weekly Authenticity Spotlight sessions, featuring followers who shared particularly inspiring stories, giving them a platform they never imagined. This direct engagement fostered an unprecedented level of loyalty and trust, turning passive followers into active advocates. Meanwhile, Julian Blackwood, seething with resentment over his repeated failures and Alastair's soaring popularity, plotted his final, most audacious strike. He poured millions into hiring Digital Serpents, a notorious, highly skilled hacker group known for their untraceable cyber attacks and their ability to cripple corporate networks. His goal was not just to steal data, but to completely wipe Nexus innovations off the digital map, to leave Alastair's empire in ashes, and prove that authenticity was merely a weakness. Blackwood intended to launch the attack during Nexus's biggest annual AI conference, Innovate Tech Summit, hoping to cause maximum damage and public humiliation. His intelligence indicated that Nexus would be demonstrating a highly sensitive, groundbreaking new AI prototype during the summit's keynote, making it a prime target for disruption and theft. This prototype, codenamed Ether, was a revolutionary ethical AI designed to prevent the very kind of data manipulation and privacy breaches Blackwood's Obsidian Corporation was accused of. Its public debut would solidify Nexus's position as a leader in ethical technology, a direct threat to Blackwood's predatory business model. Blackwood planned to not only steal Ether's core code but also to inject a viral malware during the demonstration, framing Nexus for a catastrophic data breach. The attack came swiftly and silently, like a digital phantom. It began exactly 15 minutes before Alastair was set to deliver his keynote address at the Innovate Tech Summit. Alarms blared in Nexus Innovation's main security hub, followed by flickering screens in the presentation hall as the network struggled. Data streams threatened to flatline, critical files began corrupting, and a chilling ransomware message flashed across some peripheral monitors, not for money, but simply, Obsidian Corp. Sends ITS regards. Rory, who was backstage with Alastair, saw critical system alerts flash across his tablet. Simultaneously, the lights in the main presentation hall flickered violently, and the enormous display screen behind Alastair, moments before displaying Nexus's groundbreaking AI prototype, dissolved into static, then flashed with Obsidian Corp's ominous logo. A ripple of nervous murmurs swept through the packed audience of investors, tech journalists, and industry leaders. A sense of impending doom filled the vast hall. "Alastair, we're under attack!" Rory yelled, his voice strained with urgency, his face paling. "Full-scale breach. They're trying to wipe everything, right now, during the keynote. The Ether prototype is vulnerable." Alastair's face, visible on the video call, hardened. He immediately ordered a company-wide lockdown of all external servers, his mind racing through contingency protocols. He knew this was Blackwood's final, desperate move. "Find the source," he commanded, his voice calm but laced with an icy determination that belied the chaos unfolding. "And thank our anonymous friend. This is it. This is where we prove what we're made of." His anonymous friend, the former Digital Serpents member, had sent a follow-up, cryptic message hours earlier: "The Viper strikes when the stage is brightest. Look for a zero-day exploit in the network's keynote display module. They're targeting Ether." This was the crucial piece of information. The anonymous tipster, whose real name was Kale, had become increasingly disgusted by Blackwood's tactics, especially after seeing Alastair's shift to authenticity. Kale, who had seen Blackwood exploit and discard countless people, now found himself rooting for Alastair, a man who dared to be vulnerable. Kale knew Blackwood would never stop at simple corporate sabotage, he craved absolute destruction. Kale, leveraging his intimate knowledge of Digital Serpent's protocols, had also left a hidden breadcrumb in Nexus's network logs, a unique digital signature that only Rory's advanced forensic tools could detect, verifying the anonymous tip and pointing directly to the specific vulnerability in the keynote system. Alastair, Rory, and the Nexus security team launched into a desperate, all-night cyber battle. It was a high-stakes game of digital chess, lines of rapidly scrolling code flashing across screens, each keystroke a potential victory or a catastrophic defeat. Rory, leveraging his deep knowledge of Nexus's older systems, quickly found the backdoor vulnerability Kale had hinted at in the legacy server firewall protocol. While Rory's team patched the immediate breaches, sealing off potential entry points, Alastair, drawing on his own engineering genius, remotely activated a sophisticated AI counter-program, developed in secret precisely for such an event, which began to hunt down the digital serpents within their own network. This counter-program, a precursor to Ether, was designed to learn and adapt, anticipating the hackers' next moves. The battle raged for hours, a silent war fought in the dark corners of the internet, a clash of digital titans, while outside, the news wires buzzed with rumors of Nexus's collapse. Celeste Dubois, despite the chaos, managed to push out a concise, honest statement on social media, acknowledging the unforeseen technical difficulties and assuring the public that Nexus was working tirelessly to resolve them, avoiding panic. The tension was palpable. At one point, a power surge threatened to knock out their emergency generators, but Rory, anticipating Blackwood's broad-spectrum attack, had rerouted backup power just minutes before, his quick thinking preventing a total blackout. They traced the attack, exploited the very backdoor the anonymous tipster had identified, and relentlessly pushed back, watching the digital serpents recoil, their sophisticated attacks faltering under Nexus's unified defense. Just as dawn broke, exhausted but triumphant, they had not only repelled the digital serpents, but had also gathered irrefutable digital evidence tracing the attack back to Julian Blackwood and Obsidian Corporation. The Innovate Tech Summit was briefly disrupted but ultimately recovered, with Alastair delivering a powerful, albeit slightly delayed, keynote, a testament to Nexus's resilience. He didn't just talk about the AI prototype. He used the incident as a live case study of resilience and transparency, earning a standing ovation from the audience, who were now aware of the true nature of the attack and the lengths Alastair had gone to protect them. The incident, instead of destroying Nexus, served as its ultimate validation, proving its technology and leadership under duress. Julian Blackwood, pacing his opulent office, his phone pressed to his ear, listened in disbelief as his hacker contact delivered the grim news. "What do you mean they stopped you?" he roared, his voice cracking with rage. "They're just a bunch of do-gooders. They can't possibly be better than digital serpents. I paid you millions for this. This, Alastair Finch, is a cockroach." The hacker on the other end simply disconnected. Julian's face contorted in a mask of pure fury and bitter defeat. His grand finale had failed. His hubris had blinded him to the unexpected power of a genuine leader with a loyal, authentic community behind him. The evidence Nexus collected led to Blackwood's swift arrest and the dismantling of Obsidian Corporation, a testament to the fact that even the most cunning schemes crumble before the unwavering strength of truth. Alastair's authenticity had not only built a formidable community but also forged an impenetrable fortress that protected him from the most insidious of conspiracies. The public learned of the cyber attack and Alastair's heroic defense, further solidifying his image as a leader of integrity and courage. His stock soared even higher, and Nexus innovations emerged stronger, more resilient, and more trusted than ever before. Julian Blackwood's empire, built on sand, crumbled, revealing the rotten core beneath. His downfall served as a stark warning to those who prioritized power over integrity. Federal investigations into Obsidian Corp.'s long history of unethical practices intensified, exposing a labyrinth of shell corporations, tax evasion, and past instances of industrial sabotage and questionable acquisitions, including the very factory where Eleanor Finch had perished. The full, chilling truth about Blackwood's involvement in Eleanor's death came to light, finally bringing Alastair a measure of closure he had sought for years. His personal quest for justice had unknowingly become intertwined with his professional battle for integrity. This revelation not only vindicated Alastair but solidified his legendary status as the Phoenix CEO. Do you want to build an online community where authenticity is the foundation, where every individual can share their story and overcome challenges together? If the answer is yes, act now. Like this video, subscribe to the channel for notifications, leave a comment about your experiences, and share to help build a more meaningful digital space together. Final thoughts. The true gold in the digital age. Alastair Finch was no longer the mystery millionaire, shrouded in an aura of unattainable perfection. He had transformed, emerging not just as a titan of industry, but as a genuine symbol of authenticity, a powerful inspiration for countless individuals striving to live true to their values. His life, while still demanding the relentless pace of a tech CEO, was infused with a new depth, a profound sense of purpose, and an unprecedented level of genuine happiness. He had found a healthier balance, dedicating specific time to his garden, reconnecting with Rory for simple, non-work-related outings, and even, cautiously, beginning to explore a genuine romantic relationship, something he had sacrificed for years. The panic attacks diminished, replaced by a quiet sense of peace. He still worked hard, but the burden of maintaining a false image had lifted, replaced by the strength of being truly seen and accepted. The scars of Shadowbrook Alley and Eleanor's loss remained, but they no longer defined him. They were part of the rich tapestry of his journey, a source of empathy rather than resentment. He had learned that the greatest wealth wasn't measured in the shimmering facade of luxury brands or the staggering figures in his bank account. True riches lay in the authentic connections he forged, the hearts he touched through his vulnerability, and the profound peace that came from shedding the burden of pretense and simply being himself. He had found his true self, not in the manufactured image, but in the gritty reality of his past, the challenges of his present, and the genuine connections he now cultivated. His iron heart, once hardened by trauma, had been tempered by truth, making him stronger, more resilient, and more human than ever before. In a world obsessed with curated perfection, Alastair Finch dared to be real, and in doing so, he not only saved his empire but also discovered the true gold in the digital age, authentic human connection. The story of his journey, from Shadowbrook Alley to the pinnacle of tech, then to the crucible of public scrutiny and ultimate triumph through authenticity, became a legend, a testament to the enduring power of truth and human connection in a world increasingly defined by digital facades. Nexus Innovations thrived under his renewed, authentic leadership, pioneering new ethical AI technologies and becoming a model for corporate responsibility. Alastair established the Eleanor Finch Foundation, dedicated to supporting communities affected by industrial pollution and providing educational opportunities for underprivileged youth, ensuring his mother's legacy was one of hope and positive change. He even reconnected with Kale, the anonymous hacker, offering him a position at Nexus's advanced cybersecurity division, a testament to Alastair's belief in redemption and the power of second chances. His journey was a powerful reminder that while technology can create illusions, true impact comes from genuine human connections. So, what are you waiting for? Why hold on to those artificial masks? Embrace your true self, imperfections and all, and embark on the journey to build a more authentic, more powerful version of yourself in this digital space to touch the hearts of millions. If you're ready for this journey, show your support. Like the video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss valuable content, comment on what you've learned, and share this message to help make a difference together.